Morning, good morning, good morning. I hope everybody's having a good day. My name is Dr. Boyce Watkins. I want to say welcome to the Black Boss channel where Black men lead the conversation. And today we are here to talk about a guy by the name of Deion. Deion Sanders is the head coach at Jackson State University. According to many reports, Deion Sanders is not going to be the coach of Jackson in a few days. And a lot of people are surprised by it. Some people aren't. And I'm gonna tell you one guy who's been on top of the whole Deion topic, the whole HBCU football, basketball topic, all this stuff at HB Sports and period is Mr. Jeff Lightsy Jr. from the Black Boss channel. How you doing today, Jeff?
Hey, I'm good, Dr. Boyce. I'm good. Everybody else, not so much, but I'm good. But today's going to be interesting, to say the least. To say the least.
Wow. Okay. Wow. Okay. So as you come in, I want to. This is a good topic. This is an interesting thing to discuss. And so as you come in, I want to make sure I just pay proper respect to the people who support the platform and shout out the city you're from. Let us know what city you're from and hit that thumbs up button. Thumbs up. Everybody hit the thumbs up button. Make sure you subscribe. Also hit the notification bell. I want to say hello to Julia, Mrs. L. Bernard, Kevius, Romel Harris out of Chicago, CJ, good morning. Yoshika, good morning to you. Pahokee Sports, Noah Escort, D2DA, Alicia Vaca, everybody, I want to say hi and good morning to you. So let's jump into this, man. So you've been following like HBCU sports unlike anybody else. Like you're kind of the guy in that area. What's going on right now? Why is everybody tripping and going crazy over Deion right now?
So it looks as if ESPN, one of the top college football reporters, Pete Thamel, came out and said Deion Sanders is going to not only accept the Colorado job after the SWAC championship game, but he's actually actively recruiting for Colorado and putting together a staff that'll, whether it's guys from Jackson State and guys that are at other schools, to go to Colorado with him. This is a big deal because Deion Sanders, Coach Prime, as he's known down here, and I'm actually here in Jackson, Mississippi right now, and going to the SWAC championship game where they still have a game left against Southern later today. And he has led a renaissance of not just the Jackson State, not just of HBCU sports, but you can't put a dollar value on the four letters HBCU since Deion Sanders stepped into the fray, since he kind of became the head coach of Jackson State. And because of that, it's been amazing, not just, like I said, for Jackson, the city, the state of Mississippi, the SWAC, which is the conference that JSU plays in, but Black people. You know, you feel like a new sense of pride, especially Black sports fans, about ourselves and playing for ourselves. And now you're getting these people to think like businessmen and businesswomen, like how they do at Alabama and Ohio State, right? Like he brought that mind frame to this space, and maybe that wasn't something they thought was possible. And then you add the fact that he brought the mind frame, he brought the winning, he brought the swag, and then he started bringing the players. Right? When you flip the number one player in the country and get him to come to an HBCU and several other 4- and 5-star high-level athletes considering and choosing HBCUs, whether it's out of high school or through the transfer portal, that had never happened before. Like that just simply, quite frankly, had never happened before at this level of football, meaning the FCS level. And so it's crazy because the rumors have been circulating for about a week, right? When you have success and the level of success that he's had in the last 2 years at Jackson State, they've won 22 games and counting. And this year they're currently 11-0 and undefeated. And folks at the bigger rankings of college football, the FBS level, the Power 5, they see that, right? So if you're at Colorado, which looks like where he's going to go, and you think, damn, if he can get people to come to Jackson, Mississippi, or go play for Jackson State, high-level athletes, why can't he come do that at Colorado? Why can't he do that at our school? And we can back him up with a whole lot more resources and a lot more money, not just for him, but for his assistants and for his staff. For example, this is how big the pay gap is, Dr. Boyce. Coach Prime Deion Sanders signed a 4-year, $1.2 million contract here at Jackson State. So that roughly pays him about $300,000 per year, right? The reports are coming out saying that Colorado was going to sign him to a multi-year deal that pays him, listen to this, him alone, $5 million per year, and have incentives that can raise that $5 million salary up to $7 million. So I'm not you're a math person, I'm not, but that's a million time percentage. You know what I mean? Like that's like to go from
that's a
300,000 to
a whole lot of green, a whole lot of bread.
Exactly. And one thing that Prime has always talked about since he's been here, he never made no bones about not entertaining offers at different schools. Right? He's always said that. He said, I'd be a fool if I didn't entertain the offers. But the biggest thing for him was that, Deion was getting $60-70 million contracts in the 90s, right? So he's not new to money. He's been rich and famous since he was 21 years old. He's in his mid-50s now. So he's had money for a long time. Money, fame, spotlight, all of that stuff, notoriety, all of that. But his assistants aren't Deion Sanders. His assistants don't make the money he makes off the field as far as endorsements and things like that. So he always wanted to get his assistant coaches paid. And quite frankly, Colorado just has resources that Jackson State can't match to not only pay Deion, but to also pay his assistant coaches.
Well, everybody, in case you just came in, I'm talking to Jeff Lightsy Jr. from the Black Boss Channel, and we are discussing Deion Sanders leaving, allegedly, according to ESPN. They are reporting that he's going to be leaving Jackson State, that right after the SWAC championship, he's on his way out of Jackson. He's actually headed to Colorado, or allegedly, that's what ESPN is saying. There could be some variations to the story, and so we'll kind of keep you posted. Everybody, as you come in, please hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe. And just a reminder as we get started, before we even jump into this, don't forget that tomorrow, my wife and I, who's a therapist, we're actually starting a Love and Money Masterclass. Basically, if you want to understand how your money can enhance your relationships and your relationships can enhance your money, whether it's your relationships with your kids or your parents or your friends or your mate, then join us for this class. We're going to do a deep dive in this over a 4-week period. If you'd like to join us, just go to boycewatkins.com and you can take a look. We get started tomorrow. You have lifetime access to all the materials, so feel free to join us for that class. So let's hop into this, man. So let's just the first thing I want to ask you about or get your thoughts on is there was that whole spat with him and Eddie Robinson Jr. I don't know as much about HBCU football as you do. I mean, you're the man in that area. You've been digging into that stuff. But I remember when he got that thing with Eddie Robinson Jr. and Eddie Robinson Jr. stepped out and said, "You ain't SWAC." And here's how I interpreted that. I obviously, I kind of like, I said, there's a little bit of hating going on. Deion's kind of, he's a guy that's always had the spotlight. I've been following him since I was damn near a kid, since I was a kid, and he's always had the spotlight. And so that's going to draw some jealousy and everything. But at the same time, I interpreted Eddie Robinson's statement that you ain't SWAC to mean like you're just a visitor, dude. You're not really in it for real. You're not really in it for the community. You're in it because you can't get white people to hire you right now. And this is a stopping point for you. The HBCUs are kind of the HBCU is kind of your side chick until you get the woman you actually want to marry. How much merit would that be? I mean, if you're Eddie Robinson Jr., is he sitting back saying, "See, I told y'all he ain't SWAC"? And Deion came out with the shirt, saying who's SWAC and all that, and he's a winner for sure. But is he SWAC now? I mean, would somebody step back and say, "Well, you ain't really SWAC. You ain't really down for this. You were just here long enough, to get the opportunity to work next to white folks with all the big money, and that's and if they had offered you that job in the beginning, you never would have stopped in the first place." Is there any merit to that comment?
There's validity to that, and a lot of JSU fans are now feeling that way. That's why I did a live on this, and I said, "Hey, if you're angry, you're rightful to be angry." Because here's the thing: there's everything that you said, and I'm gonna get to your comments too. But there's also what Prime said when he first got there. When he first got to JSU, he said he was called by God to be at Jackson State, meaning he said he had a call from God and it was collect, meaning he had to pay for it, right? So like he uses all these analogies and this religious analogies, and people that are very religious, they're serious about their religion, and especially you at Black folks.
Okay, go. I'm cutting you. So, is Guy calling him to go to Colorado now?
That's the thing. That is the thing. So it's like
Go
if you
ahead.
recall, I mean, but that's why there's so much anger because people have, especially the JSU fans, and that's why I applaud them. They have been taken up for Deion Sanders because people obviously always the larger public. There's way more public people than there are JSU fans, and the public at large always knew whether it's the Eddie Robinsons or whoever always knew or always felt like you really didn't know until it happens. But you had a pretty good inkling that he was going to leave and going to leave fairly soon, meaning he's not going to put in 5 years at JSU or 10 years or whatever. Whereas a guy like a Eddie Robinson could very much well be at his university for 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Like he might not ever leave Alabama State. And he also was an alumni of Alabama State. So he went there as a player, made it to the NFL out of Alabama State. Second round pick, made millions of dollars out of Alabama State. So that's why Eddie Robinson felt so offended. Like, yo, first of all, Deion Sanders disrespecting me, disrespecting my team. And at the end of the day, he ain't even swag, is what Eddie was saying. Now, Prime flipped it and being the marketing genius that he is, was able to make it a funny thing. And they made songs and T-shirts and all kinds of stuff. But there is now validity because in the back of Eddie Robinson, and he didn't say this because it was at the time it was still an adversary, a coach in your conference, and you're still trying to big up HBCU, so you're not trying to put him down. But in the heat of the moment, when he was mad, he told you how he felt. Meaning, like you said, this guy's a visitor in our space. Like at the end of the day, he's going to leave and he's going to leave fairly soon. Whereas me, I will always be an alumni of Alabama State. And me, I ain't looking to go nowhere outside of Alabama State. I'm looking to build up my program for real and not just in 2 years. But at the same time, if you're someone who supports Deion Sanders, you could flip it and say, yeah, he was a visitor. But what he was able to do in those 2 years have probably been the most impactful 2 years in the history of HBCU sports. Like in the history of HBCUs, period. We can't just limit it to sports because across the country, we've seen HBCUs have record enrollment across the country. And if you don't think that has something to directly tie to the marketing that's been brought to you for the fact that Deion Sanders is a head coach at HBCUs, you'd be fooling yourself. You'd be lying to yourself. So you can say, hey, yeah, but my name is still etched in the record books, meaning I won. I did things at Jackson State and won games at Jackson State in this conference that hadn't been done in a very long time, meaning going undefeated, winning championships, back-to-back coaches of the year, players of the year, all that stuff on my team just in 2 short years. And what I was able to do at JSU, even if I only did it in 2 years, it only took me 2 years. It could have took you 200 years and you wouldn't have did what I did in 2. Like that's what he could say, right? So like there's 2 sides to the story, but that doesn't mean that people, even though that's true on the Deion part, that doesn't mean that they still don't feel hurt. And like you said, God called you to be here and you weren't going to, and your whole purpose was to level the playing field. Well, the playing field's not level. And did God give you that same call to go to Colorado, like you said? It's a bunch of different ways to look at it.
God ain't call him for none of that. He the money called him. Like Deion had that song. Everybody remember that song? Give me a yes in the chat if you remember when Deion made that song. Must be the money. Remember it must be the money. God ain't called nothing. That those dollar bills was talking to you, bro. I mean, seriously, let's just be honest. I mean, if Colorado had said we're going to offer you a 10% raise over what you're making at Jackson State, would you come to Colorado? Don't nobody want to go to no damn Colorado. Colorado sucks. They suck. They are a terrible football team. And I'm not saying he can't make Colorado into a superpower. Maybe he can. Maybe he can pull it off. Colorado's had some great teams in the past. I think they had a Heisman Trophy winner out of Colorado.
In the 80s and 90s. This is 2022, though, Doc. Like this is different. The Colorado team that he's joining is 1-11, right? The Colorado that he's joining is a bad job. I mean, it's just, let's call it what it is. It's a bad job in a dying conference, right? The Pac-12 is losing USC, losing UCLA, could potentially be losing Washington and Oregon, right? Like it's a conference that's dying. And so the fact that he took the job, lets you know it has a lot to do with the money. But like, because that's the thing. It'd be different if he left JSU for Ohio State. Wouldn't nobody said a damn thing if he left JSU for Ohio State, right? Or left JSU for Georgia, or left JSU for even a lower tier SEC school like in Arkansas, because it's at least it's a decent job. It's a good job in a really tough conference, but it's like it makes sense, right? Colorado is all the way out in the West Coast in a state that doesn't, if we're just talking football schematics, they don't have a lot of players in Colorado. You have to try to go pull them from California and try to pull them from Texas, which can be tough in a conference that's dying at a place that hasn't been relevant since the early 90s, right? Like all of those things like play into the factor just in the football grand scheme of things. But like you said, man, that money talks. I mean, that money, like to get a jump from 300,000 to 5 million or potentially 7 million, or to get a jump from your assistant coach's pool to being $1 million or 2 million for all your assistant coaches, to the pool now being probably about 10 or 12 or 15. It's a big difference. And the question goes into, I talked about some of this last night, was, did Jackson State do enough to keep Prime, right? Meaning like, because Prime has made such an economic impact at Jackson, the city. Now, Doc, I don't know if you've ever been to Jackson. This is my first time here.
Yeah, I know Jackson pretty well. I actually had a long-term relationship with a lady from Jackson. Jackson's a beautiful city with amazing people, but you are right. I think they also, in fact, right now are in the middle of a water crisis. Where they had that muddy-looking chocolate fudge coming out of the sink that was supposed to be their water. I mean, my heart goes out to Jackson. A good city with good people, but they clearly don't have the resources they deserve to have.
Exactly. And so he has, like I said, last year, the economic impact of Deion Sanders, they came out with a report and said it was the biggest boost as far as money impact to the city in like a very long time. Just $30 million economic impact to the city of Jackson. I think they were just talking about Jackson itself. I don't even know if they were talking about the surrounding cities like Pearl and different things like that. And this year it'll go up, I'd imagine, because they did even better and they won even more, and it was just even crazier. And so now you're losing that, and that's unfortunate, because it's not to say that the next coach won't be a great guy and a great coach, right? And a guy that's more the stability is there more, right? Like you're not sitting on pins and needles wondering if he's going to leave every year. But he also doesn't mean that he's going to make that economic impact that having a Deion Sanders, bringing a college game day, getting a number one player in the country does for your city and for the Black people that live here. That's also a thing that plays into a factor. It's going to be very interesting because, like I said, I'm going to the tailgate, I'm going to the game and stuff later, and I'm interested to see how the mood is going to be, right? Are the people going to be somber and sad because they know that they're losing their coach? Or are they going to be appreciative and turning up and partying because, hey, if we're going to go out, let's go out with a bang. Let's get a win. Let's have a fun time while we're doing it. And let's reminisce on the fact that he did something here at Jackson State for HBCUs that a lot of people didn't think would ever happen, right? He was able to do in the 2 short years. And not only did he do it, he did it right here in Jackson, Mississippi, in a place that probably needed it really, really bad. And it has been awesome for 2 years. Now, granted, it was just 2 years, but it was the 2 best years, maybe possibly, in the history of HBCU football.
Okay, well, everybody, I wanted to let you guys know I'm here with Jeff Lightsy Jr. from the Black Boss Channel, and we're having a really fun conversation about Deion Sanders, allegedly, according to ESPN, planning to leave and bounce out and go to Colorado. And so as we have this conversation, I'd like to ask everybody, if you could, please hit the thumbs up, share, subscribe button if you have not done that yet. Make sure you hit the notification bell. The notification bell is very important because sometimes when you're Black on the internet, you get shadow banned. But if you hit the notification bell, you'll be notified when we go live. So make sure you hit the thumbs up, subscribe, notification bell, and put a B1 in the chat because here we're Black first. This is a platform for intelligent Black people. And also, I'd like to invite you to subscribe to the blackbosschannel.com. The blackbosschannel.com is a platform that we created where Black men do all the talking. And this is a space where Black men get to be heard. And so if you agree with that idea that Black men should be heard, then I hope that you will subscribe to that platform. The URL is right there on the screen. All right, so let me just kind of give you an assessment on this, man. I hear you, right? What you're saying makes perfect sense. Deion did not have to go to Jackson State. Deion, could have did a lot of other things. He probably couldn't have taught at a big white university because I think that he would have taken that job if for the same money at the same level. I think that he would have skipped over the HBCU path. I get a sense, and this is me as a college professor where I remember, when I was interviewing at HBCUs, I was trying my best to teach at HBCU, and I did an interview at Kentucky State University actually, and I was willing to take a pay cut because HBCUs ain't got no money. I was making $115,000 at Syracuse University. HBCUs were literally offering me like $40,000, or not even offering. We were talking about like $40,000 or whatever, and I guess it just couldn't work out. But I remember talking to I wasn't interviewing at K-State. I was actually speaking there, and I talked to this guy from Europe. There was a white guy who was Italian, and I remember he talked about the HBCU students. He talked about the black students almost like they were just garbage, and I think he felt comfortable talking to me like that because I was a fellow PhD, and he thought that maybe he was safe sharing these ideas with me. But I was deeply offended, and I remember this guy was really speaking about the black students like they were nothing. And I remember thinking, I would actually take a massive pay cut to have a chance to talk to these kids because talking to black people is more important to me than anything else. But for this guy, he saw the HBCUs, and there are a lot of foreign professors that do this. They see the HBCUs as a place where they just go and just get a job, any job they can get because they can't get a job somewhere else. And as soon as they get a better job, they're out. Now, in my path, I remember trying to break into Howard, and I had the credentials and everything, but I was a little too radical. I've always been extremely pro-black. That's very uncomfortable for a lot of HBCUs, to be honest. And so at Howard, I was interviewed by this Chinese man. There was a Chinese man literally running the finance department at Howard, which I thought was laughable. I bet you anything, you can never go to China. You will never go to China and find a Chinese finance department being run by an African-American. You won't find it. They won't allow it. Only we are dumb enough to let somebody from another country run a department in one of our HBCUs. But that's neither here nor there. And I remember I couldn't convince the Chinese man that I was worthy enough to teach young black men and women, right? So instead of trying to go and get a job at a HBCU, because I was willing to take a pay cut, I didn't care about the money. I was like, I'll just hustle. I'll go find a way to make extra money. So instead of actually attending an HBCU or teaching at HBCU, I said, I'm gonna go create one. We created the Black Business School. We have 152,000 students around the world. We have educated millions and millions and millions and millions of black people on how to invest. Give me a yes in the chat if you are smarter financially because you've been hanging out with us. I have to throw that in there for anybody who says, well, you didn't want to teach at an HBCU. What's wrong? No, I did try. HBCUs are a bureaucratic nightmare sometimes. HBCUs don't do everything right. Some of the HBCUs, wonderful places, wonderful people, but there's some issues there, right? There's so much more potential. And what I love about Deion going to Jackson State is I like the fact that he kind of pushed them to do better. He elevated the game a little bit. He said, hey, you compete in this game. And I like that because to me, that fits the essence of what Deion represented. Deion, he's always been prime time. He's always been next level. He's that guy he's not a loser. And HBCUs, unfortunately, get that unfair image of kind of just being the losers. Like, okay, we think about this. It's crazy to me that the black schools get the worst black athletes. Like that don't even make no sense. You a black school and you get the worst black athlete. Like, is there a Jewish synagogue that's like, well, we don't get the best Jews, we get the third-rate Jews. The best Jews are hanging over with the Asians and the Arabs, and that don't even make no sense. That's weird, right? That's weird. That's some old slave stuff. But here's the thing, right? When I think about Deion going to Colorado, he better do well in Colorado because if he don't, people gonna clown the hell out of him, and that's a tall hill to climb. You know what it makes me think about? It's almost like HBCUs, like just the beauty of black people and the swag that we bring. We got swag and the swag. Like black people, we're so special. Like chat, if you know what I'm talking about. Like we validate everything. And I remember talking to the leadership at the Air Jordan brand, and a lot they actually kind of insinuated and admitted that they kind of follow what black people do. in terms of how they design the sneakers, and the whole world wants to buy them because Black people validate that. Like, we give the rubber stamp of approval. We give you that thing money can't buy. Like, so we're kind of the prime time of the world in the sense that we also have a specialness. And in fact, I dare to say even Deion's specialness comes partly from the fact that he's a Black man. If he were a white guy with all that swag,
it wouldn't be the same. Wouldn't be the same.
So my thought is like this, right? When I think about Deion leaving the beauty of the SWAC and Jackson State and everything else and going to a place like Colorado, all they got is money. They don't got no they don't have no they don't have good players. The program is in the dirt. Now you're competing at a different level. You're competing against schools that have resources and talent. You ain't got that. Now, maybe you can get talent. Maybe in 2-3 years you can recruit the team that you want. And it's a possibility. But it almost makes me think about like a guy who's dating like this beautiful Black woman in the hood. And he says, hey, I know you thought I was going to marry you, but that's never what it was. I never proposed to you because I really didn't want to marry you. I'm going to go marry this rich, ugly, fat white woman in the suburbs. Like, that's the one I really wanted to marry. I wanted to marry the rich, fat, ugly white woman in the suburbs. And I know you're gorgeous, but you live in the hood. I don't want to be in the hood with you. Right? Like, being in the hood is hard and there's no money. I want to go be next to Big Becky out in the suburbs because Big Becky has a big bank account and she's gonna take good care of me. She's gonna buy me a house in a Bentley. But just seriously, what's wrong with why is that analogy wrong? Why do I think about this? Process it this way. If you took away the money, would anybody in this chat, give me a yes or no in the chat. Everybody give me a yes or no. With Colorado being 1-11, if you take away the money, would anybody in this chat choose to coach at Colorado over Jackson State? Who in the chat? Give me a yes or no. Is there anybody in this chat that would choose Colorado over Jackson State if you take away the money? So this is what I'm getting at. Like, because I'm a money guy. I think about the money. I see the money. All these white folks really got is money. That's it. That's it. They ain't got what we got. They ain't got the melanated power that we have. They don't have, he ain't gonna have the same experience at Colorado that he get at Jackson State. And so like there's nobody in the right mind that would take that job if you take the money away. So again, I compare it to like I'm dating the most beautiful. I'm dating Shaniqua, the finest girl in the hood. She got all them curves and she got those thick, sexy lips, and she loves the hell out of me. But unfortunately, she lives in a neighborhood where maybe somebody gets shot, once every couple of weeks, or we're struggling to get the groceries or whatever. So I tell her, hey, I'm gonna go date. I met a rich white lady in the suburbs. I'm gonna go date her. And I know people think that I'm hating, and I it sounds like I am, and I acknowledge that. But here's the thing, right? This is the point I want to ask, and I'll let you take over from here, Jeff. At what point does it become about more than just the money? I get it. People are like, yeah, well, of course, $5 million versus $300,000. Who would do it? I mean, at what point do you just say, yeah, the money's good? Yeah, like I could, like, for example, I run the Black Business School. Do you know how much more money I could make if I did what many of my students did and I went to Wall Street instead? I have former students that make $500,000 a day. I mean, at what point do we stop just saying, well, it's the money, man, it's the money, and really, if anybody was able to overlook the money, it should be a person like a Deion Sanders who already has the money. If you got the money, then the money can't be the only motive, right? Well, I get it if you broke and you struggling and you ain't never had a nickel in your life, that makes sense. But when you have this legendary career, when you've allegedly made $100 million or more, it makes me wonder, what's his financial situation? Like, does he have other investments and assets? Because I tell you what, if when I'm teaching Black people, the money really isn't the number one driver because, I already have some wealth and I'm okay with the money I have. You can't really buy me. Like, you can't, I'm in this seat. You can't buy me out of this seat. Harvard University couldn't buy me out of this seat. So what are your thoughts on that?
That's how a lot of people are feeling. So you add the fact that there's the money thing, and then there's the thing that there's the perspective that people say, that he used Jackson State. Like he got a lot out of being, because the thing is, Deion Sanders got a lot. Like we know, and I've talked about the impact he's made on HBCUs, the swag, Jackson, and Jackson State itself. But Prime got a lot out of being here at Jackson State too. Like let's not get it twisted. Like he got a whole lot out of being the head coach. Now, maybe all of it maybe wasn't monetarily, but as you see that he's able to level up, well, in his mind, level up and go to Colorado and go from 300,000 to 5 million. But also this, like, here's the thing. Deion Sanders says he has a son named Shador, and Shador is a good quarterback. And Prime coached Shador since he was like 8 years old. It's almost like having a son that's a prodigy. He felt like Shador was like the prodigy son. And so he coached him from youth league all through high school. And as Shador was gearing to graduate from high school, that's when Prime said, I want to get into the college game and to coach my son in college. And so he tried to get with Florida State. They didn't want him. Then he had a really, really good interview at Arkansas when Arkansas had an opening. And I think they interviewed him twice, I want to say. And he did really, really good. They thought he might have a chance to get in the job. Really thought like the job was his. But at the end of the day, they went a different direction. They chose a man named Sam Pittman, who had been coaching in college. He was an assistant at Georgia. So they went with him. And so then that's when Ashley Robinson, the athletic director at Jackson State, found out that Prime didn't get the Arkansas job, but that he was looking to get into college coaching. And then that's when the information got exchanged, and boom, he's the head coach at Jackson State. And so folks will say, well, and then obviously what happened? His prodigy son, Shador, comes to Jackson State and becomes that prodigy, one of the best players in the school history at the end of the day, has records and all kinds of stuff in just 2 short years. And so people will say, well, he used Jackson State because, like you said, Florida State, no job. Arkansas, no job. And even if he would have gotten those jobs, he would have been more like a traditional coach at jobs like those. What I mean by that, meaning he wouldn't have been out posting videos every single day, dancing with the rap music, with a bunch of black people in the background partying with them. You know why? Because they don't have the black people at those places. Yeah, you go to Arkansas, it might be 50, 60, 70,000 people. Like, yeah, you have the black athletes, but you don't have the black aura. You don't have the black culture. You're not surrounded by black people each and every single day like he is here in Jackson, Mississippi, whether he's going to the grocery store, whether he's walking around campus, whether he's at the game. Like at the game today, there will be 60,000 brothers and sisters, like meaning melanated folks in the stands. It's not going to be like that at Boulder, Colorado. It wouldn't have been like that at Florida State or at Arkansas. So that is why Jackson State gave it was like a glove, because Deion, his whole career and his whole like public life has been like the ultimate black experience as an athlete. And then he goes to a black school that gives him the ultimate black experience as a coach. But also what it did was it allowed him to audition and say, hey, I can give you the black experience as a coach, because even black coaches don't give you the black experience as a coach at these big white schools. And so he was able to audition.
Everybody, it looks like Jeff has frozen. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and Jeff, I'm going to remove Jeff from the chat. When he comes back, I'll bring him back in. But I'd be curious to know what you guys think. Do you feel like this was inevitable that he was going to leave, or did you think that Deion Sanders was actually going to stay and make a long-term career out of Jackson State? I'll tell you this. I think in a way, it's not to say that anybody can blame him for doing what he's doing, but when you say it's all about the money, it just it's then that makes that kind of steals some of the uniqueness of what he's done as a football coach, because we've been having Negroes leave for the suburbs since the beginning of time. We've always had black people that said, I want to get out of the black community as soon as I can. I'll make do with what I have until white folks decide that they want me. And usually when white folks grab you, they pull you in with the money. And that creates community-wide a Deion Sanders effect, where you have a brain drain and a talent drain from your community. And so I'm not attacking Deion for his choice. I mean, you can believe what you want to believe. It's totally okay to disagree with me. But what I will say though is, you know, everybody, a lot of y'all have gone through this. A lot of us have. How many times have you had, you know, an opportunity that involved black people that paid this much, and an opportunity that involved white people that paid that much? There's nothing unique about this. This is exactly what millions of black people have done for a very long time. And what it does is it creates a brain and talent drain from your community. You know, whatever special secret sauce Deion had as a coach and as a human being, it's now going to be Colorado's secret sauce. They can say that, you know, we got the swag now. You know, we have the prime time now. They're going to run ad campaigns around prime time. They're going to make millions of dollars from people, you know, that like that type of stuff. You know, and remember, you know, for most of his career, Deion was in those spaces. You know, he played for the Dallas Cowboys, for God's sake. That's, you know, a team that's run by a racist, Jerry Jones. Y'all saw that picture of Jerry, you know, where he was he was in that picture where they were bullying the black kids, you know, to keep them from coming to the school. So so ultimately, Deion's always operated kind of in that space, and I think that so white folks like the swag just like black people do, and I really want to encourage you to kind of process things like this without going to the obvious. The obvious is, well, it's more money. Like anybody would go for more money. I dare to challenge that. And I dare you to also go a little deeper and say, why is it that we always make the assumption that black people are always going to go for the money, even if it means leaving a space where you're safe to go to a space where you're not safe, or leaving a space where you are recognized versus a space, you know, and respected versus a space where maybe you might be disrespected. You know, leaving a space where you're loved versus going to a space where you're tolerated. I really think as black people, we have to process that. China, I'm gonna bring Jeff back in a second. Looks like Jeff is back here. But China went through that. China had a brain drain problem similar to the black community for a very long time, where the best Chinese scientists and doctors, et cetera, were being recruited to other countries. And China used to you know, they had leadership that said no more. You know, we have the best scientists in the world, and they're all working in other countries. So the Chinese government basically said we cannot grow as a country. We will never get stronger as a country if our very best and brightest are always being recruited away. So they actually started saying to their young people, like, you know, your value is measured by what you're bringing to China. It's not measured by what you did in the United States or what you did in Europe or what you did in other countries. It's measured by what you do here in China. We don't want you to leave. We want you to come back. We want you to stay home because we're tired of our best and brightest being sucked away by countries that have a little bit more money than us. And now you see China as one of the most powerful countries on earth. So I think for the black community, we have to sort of challenge this idea that if a white man offers a couple more dollars, then we're supposed to automatically be out. I would almost, again, go back, and Jeff, I'm gonna let you have the ball again. But again, you know, with Deion, you know, I assume you're financially secure. At what point do you get to the point where the money can't be the number one factor in your decision making? So go ahead.
The biggest thing is, like I said, Jackson State allowed him to audition and show that the black experience as a head coach could possibly work. And when he flipped Travis Hunter, meaning got the number one player in the country to come to JSU, those are dollar signs in people's mind, because Travis is a special athlete, and if you're at another school, you're thinking, okay, if he can get one Travis Hunter at JSU, maybe he can get 4 of them at Colorado, right? Like at Ohio State and Alabama, they get 10 of them a year, 20 of them a year, right? But like maybe you can get 3 or 4 at Colorado, and that'll change us economically. That'll change us and put us in a different stratosphere. The thing is, though, like it's not that I think Prime can go to Colorado and may be able to have some success. But boy, oh boy, he better, because they're just not going to love him the same. How, like I said, people here at Jackson, because of the way he speaks, the fact that he's religious, he doesn't smoke, he doesn't drink, he references God a lot, he uses Bible verses in his pregame speeches and things like that. He's a really good motivational speaker. They've gotten connected with him specifically through the religious thing, more so than any other job in the country would have, because we know the Bible thumping black folks in the South, they love them some church and God, and so they've kind of connected with him through that religious aspect. Well, Colorado don't give a damn about no religious aspect. They don't care about wins and losses. Like, so they you can go out there and talk about Jesus and say God called you. All of that's cool. Like, yeah, that sounds good. That's cool, right? But if you go out there and go 1-11, your ass is gonna be fired just like the last dude. You know what I mean? Like that's just the truth. And so they're not gonna look at you with the same gravitas and the same aura and love that these people here at JSU or at the HBCU community or the black folks in this place. Whereas they're like, yeah, okay, they'll have a little bit starstruck at first, but get off to a slow start or start losing football games. Yeah, that stuff wears off really quick when they're paying you See, the thing is at JSU, they're only paying you $300,000. So the wins and losses, yeah, they care about their football just like any other place. But $300,000, and you're Deion Sanders, we can't complain too much. And the fact that you're giving us all these resources. You're providing us with all these sponsorships. You're bringing in this influx of money that we've never had or never seen before. See, in Colorado, they have that already. Like money, that it don't mean nothing to us. You're not going to help us get a Walmart sponsorship. We already have that. You're not going to help us get a Pepsi sponsorship. We already have that. You're not going to make an economic $30 million economic impact to our university, our school. Yeah, we do $100 million. Right? So $30 million you know what I mean? Like we do $100 million. $30 million ain't nothing. So like, okay, so all of that stuff that goes away. Just like all of that love that Jackson, JSU, the SWAT has for you, all of that goes away. It's about wins and losses. And having Snoop Dogg and Key Glock and all these Rick Ross and all these people on the sideline, yeah, all of that's cute until you finish the season 4 and 7. Until you finish the season 6. That ain't gonna, all of them folks on the sideline, hell no. We want all of that gone if you ain't winning no football games, right? Now, all of that ain't gonna happen. All of it on the social media, all the cameras, whether it's, Amazon Prime or Barstool or, his son Deion Jr. who runs the social media. All of that's cute when you're winning, but it's gonna be hard to win at Colorado. And that stuff goes from cute and dope and amazing to annoying fast as hell if you ain't winning. So like, oh no, that's annoying or a distraction. Now that stuff becomes a distraction where it once was a recruiting pool and a reason to come down to Jackson State and visit and see, like, and it broadcasted to the world all the great things you were doing at JSU. Yeah, that becomes a distraction in their eyes when you're not winning or when you're not doing what they brought you in to do or where they give you that from $300,000 to $5 million pay increase. Yeah, that becomes distractions because, things in the black community become distraction or urban or too hip hop or too, like they use those words, those code words. And some of those code words are going to be floating around Deion Sanders if he doesn't go up to Boulder, Colorado and win, and not just win, but win immediately. They're going to start to say that because at JSU, he was able to win immediately.
Wow. Well, everybody who's watching, I'm speaking with Jeff Lightsey Jr. from the Black Boss channel. And he's as you see, he's really committed and dedicated to our HBCUs and also the sports in general. He's a little Stephen A. Smith in a good way, though, without all the buffoonery. And so if you want to follow Jeff, you can actually follow him at jlightsey7. That's his Instagram and Twitter. So follow Jeff. He's on top of sports. He'll keep you informed and stuff like that. Also, I want to remind everybody that we're in the Black Business School. We are doing a Black Wall Street training class that starts on the 6th, being taught by a brother named Cody Ransom out of Tulsa, who will teach us every single detail about Black Wall Street, who the major players were, how it was built. Our whole community needs to know about Black Wall Street. Our whole community needs to understand the details. And believe me, even if you think you understand Black Wall Street, you don't know all the details the way Cody knows the details. It's really amazing. Bring your whole family. The training starts on the 6th of December. So we're not waiting on public schools to teach nothing. We don't debate critical race theory. We don't worry about what white folks are going to teach us because we got plenty of smart Black folks who can do the job. So we partner in the Black Business School with a lot of Black educators and thinkers to do things like that. So if you'd like to join, we start on the 6th of December. Go to boycewatkins.com. The link is right there. All the materials, all the slides will be yours for life. And I encourage you to bring your children because you have to educate your own kids. We must educate our own and stop waiting on other people. So hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up. Make sure you subscribe, hit the notification bell. That's very important so you can make sure you follow the platform. So let me throw this out here at you, Jeff, man. All right. So a couple of things popped up. Let's talk about the money. You know I'm a money guy, so I'm looking at the money because and Deion apparently is a money guy because he had a song called "Must Be the Money," right? So it must be the money. And here's what is interesting. You made a good point. You made a lot of good points, but one good point that stuck in my head was that you talked about how the financial impact that Deion had at Jackson State. It wouldn't really matter so much at Colorado. Like the idea of bringing in an extra 30 million. HBCUs unfortunately are in such a bad financial state that an extra 30 million is life changing. It's amazing, which is very sad because you out here, we out here worshiping all these rappers, bragging about how rich they are, and they're not, and their universities are starving and going broke. I mean, people might give Bill Cosby a hard time for what he allegedly did or didn't do, but you can't knock the fact that he actually put his money where his mouth was. I had many hours of conversation with Kanye West, and I saw he has hundreds of millions of dollars in assets that he accumulated from Adidas and other places. Not once have I seen him write a 10, 20, $30 million check to an HBCU, but I've seen him spend millions of dollars on like his daughter's birthday party or a fashion show in Paris with Balenciaga. That's a problem. That's an issue. I think that we have to start challenging our so-called heroes and say, where are you putting your money where your mouth is? So we know that the economic impact that he had at Jackson State is not going to be seen the same at Colorado. But let me put it into context. Let me give y'all some actual numbers in terms of where Colorado is in terms of money. Colorado has an endowment. Colorado is one of the broke white schools. They're not really a rich white university. They're just mediocre. Their endowment, did you know the University of Colorado endowment is bigger than all the top 10 HBCUs combined? Colorado's endowment is $2.13 billion. If you took the top 10 HBCUs, your richest schools, your Spelmans, your Howards, your Morehouses, added them all up, they still can't match what Colorado has, right? So this tells you about this racial wealth gap that exists within universities. And it's really hard for HBCUs to compete, especially when you have the brain drain. When literally, the HBCU kind of becomes this stopping point. It's never the wife. It's always the side chick. It's always the girlfriend. And it makes me just think about sports where you'll have guys that'll date black girls their whole life. Then as soon as they sign the NFL contract, they show up with Becky on their arm. And I'm not knocking it. People can marry who they want. I'm not judging. But my thing is, maybe we shouldn't be so quick to say, well, he could just do whatever he wants and it's okay. Maybe it's not okay. I think for Jewish people, it's not okay to do that. For Asian people, it's not okay to do that. For Arab people, I don't think it's okay to do that. But for black people, we like, well, as long as he getting money, dog, like whatever. And I really think that we have to kind of grow out of that mindset. And so that was the point I want to make. Now I want to ask your thoughts on just what I said. I'm not even going to ask a question, but Colorado just has so much money, and now Jackson State goes back to being broke. What are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, it's the fact that, like you said, it's all of it. It's the money, the resources is the number one thing, right? If you say you're coming, that's the thing, Doc. Just for example, if you told me that, hey, Jeff, I'm going to do X, Y, and Z, and I'm not, and I'm here to change it, right? And you do change some of it, but you don't get it to the point that you said you were going to do, and then you leave. And it's like, yeah, you made a difference, but you didn't do what you said, or you didn't do what you said completely. If Prime says I'm coming to Jackson State, one, because God called me, and he called me collect, meaning I had to pay. And two, I'm here to level the playing field. Well, the playing field's not leveled. And not only is it not leveled, it's getting there. It's like we're seeing the progress. And we know in 5 more years, we just wonder, we're left to only imagine what it could be like in 2 years or in 3 years or in 5 years, right? Because you said you were going to level the playing field. And although you haven't leveled the playing field, you've shaken it a little bit. You shaking you've shown that it's possible. And so now it's like, oh my goodness, now it's only left to my fantasy what you could have done, right? Like at one point I never could have imagined. But now it's almost like worse. It's like that quote where they say, "Is it better to have loved and lost, or to never have loved at all?" Right? It's JSU. If all the reports are right, they will have loved and then lost, and it's like, damn. What could it's almost like we could have been there. Whereas it now, it's like if we would just have never thought about or never loved at all, we may not have known what it felt like to actually be like inch closer and closer and closer to seeing the playing field being leveled. And that's not to say that the playing field still can't be leveled, but it's just like the expedition of the playing field being leveled is gone, right? Like Deion Sanders put a battery in your back and boosted you, right? I used this analogy with my uncle the other day. JSU and HBCU sports, it was trending in the right direction, but it was on like a slope, like with a slight trend, right? Like it was going up a little bit. But when Deion came, it went like this, like it went straight up, right? Like like you went from this slow but steady to straight up in the air, like up, and like we just wondering how high could he take it. But the thing was, he can only take it as high as long as he's there. And as long as his direction is going straight up like this, the scoundrels and the vultures are going to come and try to pluck him away from that black school down there in Jackson, Mississippi. And that's essentially what happened. And that's why it's unfortunate. And the fact, the economic impact, like you said, it won't be the same at Colorado because Colorado's not hurting for money. They're not hurting for money, and they will fire you if you don't do what you're supposed to do. They will not love you the same. Even before they fire you, their fans, their alumni, their boosters, their people on Twitter, on the internet, on Instagram, on Facebook, they're going to bash you if you're losing before they fire. So even before the firing, if you don't have success, and that's not to say he won't go there and have success, but if you don't have the success, and not just success, but the level of success that they expect now. It's not just like you can go out there and still have winning records. Coaches with winning records still get fired all the time. And because it's big business, right? You could have a winning record, but if you're not making the impact that they want, they will fire you. And so that's why it's all different, man. It's going to be totally, totally different. He's always been Deion Sanders since he's been in the public spotlight. But coaching is different than being a player. See, as a player, there's folks that sign your checks, and they can kind of, like get you up out the coaching. You're the face of the organization. And in Colorado, you're the face of a big white organization. And will you be able to have that same gravitas, that same swag, that same dialect, those same interactions when the boosters, alumni, fans, students aren't Daquan and Tyrone and Shaquita, but now they're Bruce, Bob, and Billy, right? Like Billy, Bob. And, like, will you have that same swag with them? Like, will you be able to, right? Like, or do you have to talk really proper and get, you know what I mean? Like, do you have to get in line? Because there's a game you have to play when people are paying you $5 million a year. That's just the fact. Doc, you've been in those spaces. There's a game that you have to play, and there's asses that you have to kiss. Pause. No offense. That you have to play when somebody's cutting you a $5 million check to be the face as a coach, to be the face of their organization. That just isn't the same when you're here at an HBCU at Jackson State University.
Yeah. I really think you know what I think about, man. It's a similar story, but not quite the same. You and I are both from Louisville, Jeff, and Jeff Lightsy Jr., by the way. That's the name of the brother I'm speaking with. And you and I remember a coach by the name of Charlie Strong in Louisville. Yeah. Now, here's my perception. Now, you're a sports guy. You're one of the best in the business, and so you can fill in the blanks. Because I'm gonna speak as a casual observer, but a football fan, about what I saw with Charlie Strong, and why it reminded me of that TLC song, "Don't Go Chasing Waterfalls." You remember that song? Don't go chasing waterfall. All right, so Charlie Strong, everybody, was coaching at Louisville, and he really, really brought it. I mean, the team was the best it had been in years. They were pretty close to almost like competing for a national championship, which growing up, I grew up when they would give away those football tickets just because nobody wanted to go to the games. And he brought a sense of pride to the school. He was a black coach. it was black excellence. For the people in the city, the black folks, like we were really proud of Charlie Strong. At least I was, to see this black man leading the team and seeing them
We
compete
all
on a
were.
national
We
level.
all were. I was there. I lived it. We were. Charlie was
Yeah,
our guy,
man.
but continue on.
Yeah. And so then, and Louisville really worked to pay him. They were really trying to throw that money at him. But Charlie wanted bigger, a bigger stage. So he took a job at the University of Texas. And I remember being so heartbroken when he took that job. I was like, man, like, dang, like they gave him everything he wanted. But sometimes you just want to be on that bigger stage, right? Charlie Strong goes to Texas. It's a complete shit show. From day zero. The alumni didn't, the biggest donors did not want his black ass on their campus. They did not. They gave him the money, but they did not give him the support. I think the players had a mutiny. The team sucked. Like, they were terrible. I mean, they were terrible. Next thing I know, he's back teaching, what was it, Florida Atlantic or something? And then I don't know if he even kept that job. Like, it was like it went all downhill. Like you left. And here's my point, right? And I want to get your take on like what you saw with that whole situation, how it might relate to this a little bit. What I saw with Charlie was, like, you can't underestimate the value of being in a place where they really just love you. Mm-hmm. Like you walk away from love because you want something that validates you, right? Or helps you reach some sort of shiny goal or whatever. But then next thing you know, you find out that your goal was buried in your backyard. That literally everything you had was right there in front of you, but you went out in the world trying to search for stuff, and next thing you know, you're in a bad situation. What was your thoughts on that? What was your impression of how things went down for Charlie Strong? And would you relate that a little bit to what could happen here with Deion going out to Colorado?
Well, with Charlie Strong, the thing was, like you said, he wasn't their first choice, and then he was going to Texas, and he had a white wife. Like, so you had all of those things. It just, they never, the boosters, meaning like the football people wanted Charlie, but the football people aren't the ones that pay the bills around like football itself does. But the boosters, those endowments, those come from really rich people that went to your university and that give a lot of money back to your university in conjoint with the sports and athletics and the academics that bring in the money. But the money makers are the alumni and the sports. And so with Charlie, it was a sinking ship when he hopped on there, right? Like that's essentially what it was. And that could be the case at Colorado with Deion. We just don't know. I mean, it's a 1-11 team. Texas wasn't even that bad when Charlie left to go there. Now, the difference between Charlie and Deion is that Deion is Deion, right? Like, he'll always be able to bounce back simply because he is prime. But like you said, it's the fact that he will never feel the love at Colorado, even if he wins 100 straight games in a row and wins 10 national championships. He will never feel the love that he feels here. It's impossible, because you know why? They're always going to put their first love in front of him. The guys that were winning at Colorado or winning wherever before he got there. So they've seen winners before, and they've seen what it looks like to win national championships and Heisman Trophy winners and things like that. So even if Deion comes and do those things, well, that's been done before. Here at Jackson State, yeah, they were winners and they partied and stuff, but this impact hadn't happened. They hadn't been relevant in the social media era, right? Like, they hadn't been relevant, done this type of business. Even when they were winning, they weren't making this kind of money. And so there's a difference there. Your impact is different. Even though they had coaches, W.C. Gordon and so on, that won a lot of games, but they weren't able to drive millions of dollars in corporate sponsors and fans that travel from across the country to come see you play and different things like that. So that's different. So they appreciate you different because you're the first. You're the first to do these things here. And when you're the first to do anything, it feels a little different. Colorado, you won't be the first to do nothing. You won't be the first to do nothing. And so everything, and it's a big white school. And so they're always going to choose their white lover, the one that did it first, that was white, over you. It's just true. It's just, let's call a spade a spade. It is the truth. And so even if Deion goes there and gets Heisman Trophy winners and gets top recruits and wins championships, and this is just a far-fetched, because at Colorado, it's going to be damn near impossible to do these things, but it can happen. It's a possibility, but it's going to be damn near impossible. Well, they've done these things before. And so you won't be the first person to do it. And they'll be happy. Yeah, they'll be happy. But like I said, in big college football, Even the coaches that win championships get fired, Doc. Even the coaches that win freaking championships get fired. Go ask LSU's last 2 coaches. They got fired after winning championships. Go ask a couple of coaches from Auburn. They got fired after winning championships. Like this is a serious thing. Like they don't play. It's not like fun and giggles and like look at Nick Saban. He's the winningest coach in the history of college football, and he never freaking smiles. Like he never smiles. Why? Because he's always stressed. Because if you don't win, he knows he can even get replaced. So that's the thing. Like that is the seriousness of major high-level college football when they're paying these coaches $5, $7, $10, $12 million per year.
Wow. Well, you know what, Jeff? I know you're actually down in Jackson. I know you gotta go. I'm gonna continue. I'm gonna hang on, and just so you know, I'm gonna stay on here for a little bit, but you can bounce out anytime you gotta go, man. Because I know that you're actually going to the championship game and stuff like that. So I just want to make sure you know that, and I'm not even telling you to go. I'm just saying that whenever you're ready,
I got a few more minutes. I can hang out, so I got a few more minutes, and then I'll get up out of here.
All right, very cool. And by the way, I'm speaking with Jeff Lightsy Jr. from Ball Sports. And Jeff, I'm going to give actually his Instagram and Twitter information if you want to follow him and debate sports with him. He'll debate you all day long on social media. And we're talking about Deion Sanders being reportedly leaving Jackson State for Colorado. University of Colorado is allegedly, according to ESPN, offering him $5 million to take over there. It's a big pay jump from $300,000 or so that he was making at Jackson State to $5 million. And we're just debating the pros and cons of that. So, by the way, if you could take 1 second, everybody take a second, hit that thumbs up button, hit the notification bell. Also, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell. That's really important because you want to be notified when we go live. If you enjoy this kind of content, then you will be notified when we go live. Also, I want to mention this week, I'm actually speaking at the Sales Accelerator in Atlanta today, actually. And Coach Kimberly Fowler is hosting that event. And I want to make sure I mention that. I'll put her URL on the screen if anybody wants to come to that event. It's for basically anybody that wants to level up your business. And I'll put Kimberly's URL on the screen in case you want to come out and, shake my hand and say hi and, stuff like that. All right. So let's so one of the things that here's what what's interesting about this, man, is like, I get it, right? I understand why a lot of people, agree that Deion should go to this other job. I get it. I totally get it. But here's the thing. The fact that I can easily explain exactly why people believe that he should take this job, that's the problem. That's part of the problem. And what do I mean by that? Well, let everybody in the chat, let's do a test. Type in one word, and I'll give you a hint. It starts with the letter M. Type one word that explains why Deion Sanders would take the $5 million job over the $300,000 job. Everybody type in the chat. One word starts with the letter M that explains why Deion Sanders wants to go to crusty-ass Colorado with a horrible record. Like, ain't no melanin in Colorado like that. They got some black people, though. Don't get me wrong. I love my black people in I did an event in Denver. It was sold out. So we got black people in Colorado. But give me there's one word. Like, it's a one-dimensional decision. It's like being a one-issue voter, right? It's just the money. Colorado sucks. I mean, I look at their record, man. They haven't won more than like 5 games in a year. They've done that 2 times in the last 20 years. In 2004, they were 8-5. In 2016, they were 10-4. Other than that, if I look at Colorado's record, I see 1-11, 4-8. For some reason, 4-2. I guess that was the shortened season during
the COVID year. That was the COVID year.
That was actually, but that's actually on their way to a good season. That's one of the best ones in here. 5-7, 5-7, 5-7. Then they had 10-4 in 2016. 4-9, 2-10, 4-8, 1-11, 3-10, 5-7, 3-9, 5-7, 6-7, 2-10, 7-6. That's a winning record. Good for them. And I mean, they are horrible. They haven't been really good since the 90s. They haven't been good consistently since the 90s. So the thing is, right? I get it when people are like, yeah, Deion needs to do what he's got to do. It's business and da-da-da. And But the fact that I can just tell you, like, oh, it's just the money. Maybe that just is a little deeper. Maybe it needs to be a little deeper than that, right? It's like if money is always the number one motive, and I'm saying this as a money guy, I talk to y'all about money constantly. My doctorate's in money, so I know the power of money. I know it very deeply. But the thing is, if money is always the number one driver in your decisions as a black person, then white people will always win. White people, touchdown for the white man every damn time, because guess who has all the money in America? Who y'all think got more money in America? The white man. He's got all the money. So he's like, oh, if I get these Negroes on this financial frequency and they live on this financial frequency and all they do is worship that dollar bill, then they're going to end up worshiping me because money is your God, but I control the God. I'm the God who controls the God. And then you wonder why you a damn slave. Then you wonder why you a damn slave, because you don't have no currency that matters to you other than the dollar bill. I resent that. I challenge you on that. I understand money matters. Money is important. I'm not even judging Deion's right to make this decision, but God damn it, can't we have a criteria that goes beyond just, well, they paying the most money, we getting the most money? Man, do you know how many ways? Do you understand? Like, if I know that money is the number, it's the thing. If I can use money to get you to abandon your family, or disrespect your people. Where do you think all these rappers come from? Disrespecting women, getting kids hooked on drugs, rapping about murdering black people, sounding like neo-Nazis or whatever. And it's because we say, well, it's the money they paying, they making good money, so genocide's okay as long as we getting paid to die. You got to stop that, man. You just got to stop that. I mean, if you support Deion, support him. That's cool. But don't come to me with no nonsense. For years, Jeff, I'm passing the ball back to you. For years, Jeff, I fought with BET. The one TJ Holmes is in the news now because he the Snow Bunny's like it was. But TJ Holmes is Good Morning America. I had one conversation with TJ Holmes my entire life. And TJ called me. I never call these celebrities. They always call me. Whenever they reach out, they call me. I never reach out to them. TJ called me. And he got my number from Don Lemon, which was really weird because Don and we never got along. But I'm surprised my number was even in his phone. But TJ called me and we were talking about BET. And he said, when we were in our meeting with BET, because he was at BET at the time, he said, you wrote an article that almost sounded like you were in the same meeting. He said, everything you said was right on point. And it was like you worked for the company. Like, I was like, how did he know all this stuff? I just had to call you and talk to you about it. And I said, it was easy, man. Because every time I talked to BET, and I would say, why are you promoting like the stuff that's killing black people? Why are you this big white owned company claiming you control black culture, promoting things that are you know are harmful to your own damn community? Well, we make a lot of money. It's the BET Awards. BET Awards makes a lot of money. We get a lot of advertising. It's money. So that wasn't hard. That's not a hard analysis because you're one dimensional. It's like playing basketball against a player who can only dribble with his right hand and only knows how to go to the basket. You can play defense on a one-dimensional player very easily because he doesn't have a plan B. He has no other moves. So I'm saying to black people, look, if you want to win this game called against white supremacy, you got to get a move outside of just, well, I'm for sale to the highest bidder. It's the money. It's the money. Because then you become simple. You're easy to figure out. It's easy to play defense on you. It's easy to score on you because you only got one damn move. Jeff, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, just and really quick. It's just on that note, right? And I'm gonna reference something you said earlier. You talked about how you could have went to a different. You could have stayed at Syracuse or went to a different school or went to the HBCUs and made a bunch of money doing that, like maybe even more money than you make now, right, or whatever. But it was something about building your own, and not just building your own for your people. The Black Business School. Who is my target audience? It's black people. What Coach Prime was doing at Jackson State, he was essentially created his own black business school in multiple ways, or his own black football factory, business school, motivational seminar, whatever. Like it was all in one right here in Jackson. And now you're moving on And it's like, oh my goodness, what this could have been. When you started the Black Business School, it wasn't 150,000 students or whatever. It started with one, and then it grew to this. Well, Deion, when he came here to Jackson, it was not the place that it is now. And just imagine, you've been doing your thing for 20 years or whatever. Imagine what his could have been like after 5. And when you built the Black Business School, I'm sure there is a sense of pride by saying, yeah, I could have been a 30-year, tenured professor at wherever. But I literally created a school, and it's mine, and that is my legacy, and that'll last forever, way past when I'm gone. And not to say Prime's time here at Jackson State after 2 years won't last after he's gone, but man, what it would have been like after 5, or what it would have been like after 10, or what it would have been like after 15, or whatever. You know what I'm saying? Especially when money's really not a factor for him. He's rich already. He was going to be rich to the day he dies. He was rich in the 90s. He was rich in the early 2000s. He's rich right now. Like that $5 million a year, it's going to matter, right? But his sons, his 20-year-old sons, walk around with diamond chains and diamond watches and gold and diamond grills. Look it up. It's just the truth. And so that tells me they ain't hurting for no money. If your 20-year-old son got, $5 million worth of jewelry on just to walk around the mall at 20 years old. You know what I'm saying? So like, it just would have been so special. The fact that he was essentially building a Black business school, a Black football factory right here at a Black school in a Black city, Jackson, in a state, Mississippi, that's been detrimentally done horrible to Black people. Like all of it was just beautiful to watch. And now we're watching it go away, and that's the sad thing.
What it makes me think about too, Jeff, is we have all these athletes that talk about how they want to. They're like, well, we're hoping that one day we can own 2% of an NFL team. Like we 5% of the Baltimore Ravens is up for sale. We're forming an investment group to buy 10% of the Baltimore Ravens or whatever, and it's stupid to me. It's silly to me. We're like the 7-foot midget. We're the 7-footers that really think we're midgets. So we act like midgets. We walk like we're short and kind of just do what a short person would do when really you're the tallest person in the room. And because to me, owning 10% of an NFL team means nothing when you used to own the Negro Leagues. You owned the entire franchise. You were the commissioner and the shareholder, and you also owned all those businesses connected to the Negro Leagues. And so it's not a matter of saying Deion doesn't have the right to do what he wants to do. I mean, my Lord, millions of Black people have done this. That's the culture, right? That's what we're trained to do. Is big white institution offers you a bunch of money, you go take it. When we grew up as kids, we were taught in my generation that your goal was to go and do a good job, impress some white person enough that they are going to offer you a job working for a big white company or in a house in the suburbs so you can get out of the hood. Anybody remember that? Anybody else grow up like that? Where you're going out of the hood? And now I know your mom, Jeff. Your mom's a really smart lady, and your mom was the conscientious Black woman who had the good corporate job, made plenty of money, but said, I'm not leaving the hood. I'm deliberately staying in the hood because the hood needs me. Like, I need to be here. Your mama easily could have moved anywhere she wanted, but she said, no, I'm staying in the hood. And I really think, I'm not saying that Deion should have stayed where he was at Jackson State, but here's the thing. People don't understand. There's a lot of ways that a guy like a Deion Sanders can make $5 million a year. There's a lot of ways.
He does it already. He already does. Like, think about it. Like, Prime has because every deal he has a ton of deals, and he has essentially 2 managers. Well, somebody who ain't being booked and busy don't have no damn 2 managers, right? You got 2 managers in a whole management company. That means you're staying booked and busy. You're on Super Bowl commercials. He's Deion Sanders. He was a NFL Hall of Famer, college football Hall of Famer, and worked on TV for 15 years. So like, he's booked and busy. And now, not only, and then you take all of that, and when you have good marketing and good campaigning, and you have the goodwill, they spin that and say he left all of that, but not necessarily left it, but then took that and brought it to Jackson State. And they were able to flip it and package it. And that's why he's had not 1, but 2 documentaries since he's been here in 2 years. 2 docuseries, not documentaries, meaning one movie. I mean in docuseries, multiple part episodes. One was on Barstool, and the next one will air this month on Amazon Prime. So, like I said, when I say Jackson State benefited him, like if he would have got that job at Arkansas, he wouldn't have had 2 docuseries in 2 years. It just would. He wouldn't have had College Game Day come to Arkansas probably. I mean, it wouldn't have happened. But all of that has happened since he's been at Jackson State. But it mainly because the story is so great. The guy, the Deion Sanders, the Hall of Famer, the best athlete ever, chose to go coach at a school, at an HBCU, even though he never attended one and maybe never even been on one's campus before he got to Jackson State. You know, so that's why it all made for a good story and was easy to sell to different businesses. And since 2020, all the businesses allegedly want to give money to Black entities. Well, what better than to give money to Deion Sanders so he can promote my product? That's a Black entity. Give it to his school that he's at coaching. And so I get to say that I did my duty to give my pledge. All of them pledged a bunch of money to Black entities back in 2020. So I fulfilled my pledge. And I get Deion Sanders out of the deal. You know what I'm saying? Like I get primetime and all the cameras that he brings out of the deal. So it was a win-win for both. I just wish I could have seen it last longer. That's all. But I do have to get out of here though, Doc. So I appreciate you having me, man.
Yeah, no problem, man. I'm glad you're here, and I want everybody to get your information as you bounce out. I'm gonna hang out and talk to everybody and answer some of y'all's questions. But Jeff Lightsy Jr., he's from the Black Boss Channel, and he's a brilliant young guy, and he does a lot of great stuff. You can follow him on Instagram at jlightsy7. So everybody go to Twitter or Instagram or both and follow Jeff. He's a smart guy. And if you like to debate sports and stuff like that, he'll get in there, he'll debate with you, and he does it every day. This is what he does, and I have a lot of respect for you, man. So
yes, sir. And if you want to follow along what's happening here in Jackson at jlightsy7, I'll be posting different videos and different tweets and everything that I find out while I'm here. And just if you want to further this conversation, I'll be posting about all that stuff all throughout the day.
Yeah. I got to bring you back so we can talk about how Prime got at you in that press conference. Deion didn't like your question, but Jeff is always in the press conferences. So thanks a lot, Jeff, man. It's
appreciate it, Doc. Again.
All right. Jeff Lightsy Jr., everybody. Do me a favor, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, share, subscribe if you haven't done it yet. And also make sure you hit the notification bell. And don't forget that tomorrow, my wife's a therapist, and we created the first ever Black financial therapy department in the Black Business School. And our goal is to work with the best therapists and the best financial experts to figure out what psychological barriers are keeping us from building Black wealth. So my wife, my doctorate is in finance. My wife's doctorate is in social work, and she's also a licensed therapist and a certified clinical trauma professional. So we decided to co-teach this class together. It's a 4-week deep dive into love and money, relationships and money, and how you can use your money to enhance your relationships and your relationships to enhance your money. So feel free to join us. You can go to boycewatkins.com. We get started tomorrow. All the materials are yours for life. There is a discount if you go to my website. Feel free to join us if you're into that kind of thing, and this is of interest to you. All right, so let's talk about this, right? So with Deion leaving, I want to make it clear. I think that there is, I get it. I think that there are people that would say, why are you pocket watching? I get that, or it's his business, it's his priority. He can do whatever he wants. I get that. I understand, and you're right. You're absolutely 100% correct. It's Deion's choice, and it's Deion's right. And Deion, this does not make Deion into a terrible person. In fact, it makes him actually, he fits in. It makes him fit in because a lot of us would do the same thing in that same situation. What I want to do is present an alternative perspective to help us really understand just sort of what you're seeing here, though. And again, because this is very typical, this is very common. Many of us have done this. This is also one of the reasons why Black wealth has been dropping. Give me a yes or no in the chat if you're aware that Black wealth, despite all the successes, despite all your Jackie Robinson moments, despite all the times where you've had white folks accept you and bring you into their campuses, into their corporations, etc., despite the fact that you've attended their universities, your wealth is dropping. And does anybody know that? Give me a yes if you're aware that Black wealth is not going up. Black symbolic success is going up. Like our symbolism is at an all-time high. Our swag is at an all-time high in terms of us feeling good, because we're being accepted by the world, but your wealth, your ownership, your control is drop. And Black people owned far more land 100 years ago than we own today. We own far more businesses 100 years ago than we own today. This is just a fact. Okay. So what I want you to really understand is this. Let me do a simple framework to help you understand why I'm presenting this other perspective. It's not, you don't have to agree. I get it. Voices beating, voices hating, and voices. I hear all that. I hear it all the time. It's totally fine. Say it in the chat. But here's the thing. So Jeff mentioned earlier that Deion Sanders' economic impact on the city of Jackson was about $30 million a year. I think it's more than that, to be honest with you, but let's say it's $30 million a year. He also mentioned that Deion going to Colorado means his salary is going to go from $300,000, according to ESPN, to about $5 million, right? And he's got staff members that are going to get paid too. The coaching staff's going to get a better deal, etc. Right? Good for them. Good for them. But I want you to compare. I want to ask y'all a question. When you talk about overall economic impact, which number is bigger, 30 million or 5 million? Which number is bigger, 30 million or 5 million? Because when Deion is in Jackson, Deion makes his money, but the community makes its money too. A few $100,000 go to him. It's less than what he deserves. He deserves millions of dollars. But millions of dollars go to the community. Millions of dollars go to the university. Millions of dollars go to lots of Black-owned businesses that are going to benefit financially from the presence of Deion, from the spectacle of Jackson State football, from the sold-out stadiums. Do you get what I'm saying? Give me a yes in the chat if you can at least hear what I'm saying. Give me a yes if you can at least acknowledge this. I'm not asking you to agree. I'm asking you to hear me, okay? But when he goes to Colorado, who's going to benefit? Whose businesses are going to benefit from the presence of Deion Sanders? Whose university, if the university is making a few million extra because Deion brings this light everywhere he goes, what university is going to get it? Is it Colorado and HBCU? Is a Black university going to get that money? Or is a white university going to get that money? Are Black-owned businesses going to get that money? Or white-owned businesses going to get that money? Is a Black community going to benefit from those millions he'll bring into Colorado? Or is a white community going to benefit from those millions in Colorado? So this is the point that I need y'all to understand as Black people. I need you to just kind of take a second. Just hear me. Just hear me. I'm hearing you. I need you to just hear me. Unfortunately, what you're looking at is basically another Jackie Robinson moment. When Jackie Robinson got plucked out of the Negro Leagues, they weren't going and looking for everybody. They said, look, we don't want all the Negroes. We don't want all of y'all. Oh, God, no. But we want him. We likes that boy right there. We want that boy. We want him to come play for us in the leagues, right? In the Negro Leagues, right? So Jackie goes and he gets a nice contract. He gets a nice deal. He's making big money. And people, there's a debate, right? Some people are like, man, now, dang, we losing some of our best players, and now my business is struggling because people don't come to the games, and now the league is going to be in financial straits and it's going to be struggling. But then there are people that were like, yeah, but that boy going to make good money, and he get to play against Joe DiMaggio. He get to be in the big leagues, right? Even though the whole time the Negro leagues were the big leagues. The Negro leagues, the white people didn't have Satchel Paige. The white people didn't have the great players that we had at that time. The Black man has always been the greatest athlete in this country. We were the big leagues, but we thought we were the little leagues. We were the 7-foot midget. We were the 7-footer that thinks that they're a midget. So you always looking for somebody taller when you're the tallest person in the room, and everybody knows it but you. Everybody knows how great you are except for you. So you trying to get next to white folks because you've been trained for 400 years. Books like Black Labor, White Wealth explain this. Powernomics.com is where Dr. Anderson's books are. I encourage you to get them for your kids so they understand how to not fall for the rope-a-dope. But you've been trained to believe that his ice is colder, that his fans are better, that his stadiums are prettier, that his women are finer, that his money is cleaner. And so you want to go be next to him because you somehow feel that that's a symbol of success. So I'm going to go back to that basic point. If you take away the money, there's no reason on this earth anybody would rather be at Colorado than Jackson State. What the hell kind of Black person would say, gosh, being around all them black people at Jackson State, that makes me nervous. I don't like all that black stuff and all that dark skin and everything. I needs to go out to Colorado where everybody's nice and pasty. You know, Colorado's kind of cold, so they got those pasty white people. They ain't got no skin color. You know what I'm talking about. I'm not making fun of them, but maybe I am. But you get the point, right? So you want to go to cold ass Colorado, losing record, pasty white folks, and you're doing that. It's because of the money. That's it. It's literally like the money is the motive, and I encourage you to understand that this is part of the reason why your wealth declines, because you have a brain drain and a talent drain. Deion's going to Colorado for the same reason that a lot of your black athletes will skip over the HBCUs and go to the big white schools. I mean, why wouldn't they? The big white schools have the money. The big white schools have the facilities. The big white schools have the fans. They have the national TV exposure. Those are all wonderful things. And the thing about it, though, the problem, though, the reason that you're missing out on the true wealth is because true wealth comes to people who build things. True wealth does not come to people who attach themselves to pre-existing institutions. True wealth comes to people who build institutions that others eventually want to attach themselves to. So another way, so Deion is going a route that a lot of people go, and that's fine. But another approach to look at this might be to say, I'm prime time. The sun, I'm not a planet. I'm not a planet that revolves around the sun. I am the sun, and planets revolve around me. So wherever I go is where the swag is going to be. Wherever I go, the power is going to be there. So I'm not going to you. You got to come to me. So because I'm going to build something right here that's going to have the power of the sun. And all we're going to do, we ain't going to revolve around nobody. We ain't responding to nobody. We ain't trying to get up next to nobody. All we're going to do is shine. And all we're going to do is use our power to have a gravitational force and a pull that is so strong that eventually planets start revolving around us because I'm the sun. So let me tell you a little secret. See, I don't show it so much because I think it's kind of bad, but I got a little prime time in me too. I've always known how smart I am. I've always known that I understand things about economics and finance that most people don't get. I've always known that I could be as great as I wanted to be. I just don't believe in bragging about it because you don't brag. You're not supposed to brag about it. You just show it. You just do it. And so do you know the promise that I made to myself back in 2007 when I was leaving Syracuse University to do the things that I do now? Is I said, I am not going to go chasing down any of these celebrities. I'm not chasing down anybody. I'm not trying to go get in front of nobody to show them how good I am at what I do. You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to sit back and I'm just going to murder the game and kill it right where I sit. I'm not going to them. They're going to come to me. And I'll be damned. And I've put it on a stack of Bibles right now that every single celebrity that I have ever met in the last 15 years, I never called them first. They always called me. You know why? Because they were like, what's that Boyce Watkins guy going on over there? What's his I've heard good things about his platform. Seriously. And I can go down the list. I'm talking about, the Al Sharptons and the Jesse Jacksons and the Ice Cubes and the Kanye West. Kanye, I didn't call Kanye. I wasn't trying to get next to Kanye. I don't care how many shoes you sold to weird old white kids around the world that want to spend $400 for a pair of ugly sneakers. I don't care about fashion shows in Paris with Balenciaga, the biggest child molesters on earth. I don't care about that stuff. None of that impresses me. I'm black first. I'm B1. This is where the gold is buried. Kanye called me. Kanye reached out to me. I'm not bragging. I'm sorry. I know it sounds. I don't want to sound cocky. I promise you, I'm not trying to do that. I'm trying to empower you. I'm trying to support you in your greatness and understand. Look, if you're just good at what you do and you're building where you stand, then eventually you gain something that is very powerful because you poured into it. It's like a child. If you have a little baby, you can't sit here and drop your own baby so you can go babysit other people's kids. Well, I want some light-skinned kids with good hair. You got a beautiful baby. You done drop your baby in the dumpster so you can go babysit somebody else's kid when you got the most beautiful child on earth. Why not sit back? I just really think in general, as black people, what we got to do, this is what's going to solve your wealth problem. I swear to God, this will solve your wealth problem. You have to really create a generation of builders. You have to create a generation of young people that say, look, we don't need to go. I know the white man's got all the money. I know he's got some resources and all that, but I'm not a one-dimensional thinker. You can't just get me for the money. This is why I love the Nation of Islam, because I talked to Akila Nihonda, one of the greatest rappers of all time. And I didn't need other people to tell me Akila Nihonda is a great rapper. I just decided that. And I said, you're great right where you stand. Let's show everybody how good you are. Right. And I like Akila because you can't buy Akila with dollar bills. You can't just have her go sit next to some pasty ass racists because they paid her extra money. You cannot be a one-dimensional thinker, because I go back to that basic premise that if you let money be your motive for every decision you make, then you might as well put on a Klansman's hat or a Klansman's cape and call yourself a white supremacist. You might as well become a white supremacist. Why is that? Well, because if you worship money and the white man has all the money, then you will effectively end up worshiping the white man. That's it. It's just true. Because the problem that you have is that the only wealth that you see is financial wealth. You don't see cultural wealth. You don't see the wealth that comes from the strength of being in your own community. You don't see the wealth that comes from networking with people who love you. You don't see the wealth that comes from family support. You don't see the wealth that comes from being in a community that literally is a trendsetter for the entire world. You see no wealth in that. Everybody else does. That's why white folks were running through the South Bronx trying to learn how to make money off of hip hop. They saw the wealth. You don't see the wealth. All you see is them dollar bills. And so what I would say to like Deion is, I wouldn't say anything to him. I'm not interested in, I don't dislike the guy. If he wanted to talk, I'd talk to him. But I really think, if you're a person that's already made money, why are you still making your decisions based solely on money? I just don't get that. I mean, but then again, with athletes, you never know what's going on with their financial situation. I know Deion's had a divorce and everything else, so maybe that drained his bank account to the point where he still got to take the job that comes from the highest bidder. But I really, really think you got to think outside of that box, because I'm going to tell you, if these athletes got together with all of their influence and all of their wealth and all their contacts, if the top 20 athletes on earth got together and said, we're going to create a league that in 20 years will be as big as the NFL, they could pull that off. If they said, we want to create a league that in 20 or 30 years is going to be as big as the NBA, they could pull it off. The reason they don't pull it off is because they don't have the vision. You can't build wealth in a community if you can't even look out a 30-year horizon. If you can't even look a generation ahead, you will never have wealth and economic power. If all you see is what's in front of you and you can't see that which could be in front of you, then you will never have wealth. If all you see is the present and you can't see the future, you will not be wealthy. So I'm asking you to just gain some vision and perspective. I want you to ask yourself this. What if Deion was at Jackson State and committed to supporting the building of a business and infrastructure that generated millions and millions of dollars for the people in Jackson State, where they would benefit from the fact that Jackson State became one of the greatest shows on earth? What if they have business development initiatives where they said, okay, let's take what we have and let's build around this. Let's figure out how we can increase that revenue from a couple $100,000 a month to a couple $1 million a month. What would have happened? What would that have looked like 5 or 10 years from now? And here's the thing, you'll never know what it looks like because you're only thinking about a paycheck. Paychecks are not, wealthy people don't have paychecks typically. Wealthy people own assets. They own entities. There's nothing in Colorado right now that is owned by Deion Sanders. There's nothing about that university that's owned by him or his associates. There's very little in Colorado. They've already got their business infrastructure. They've already got everything. So basically they're saying, we want you to come in and we want you to be an employee and we want you to help us build what we got. We matter more than anything else. And so that will explain to you part of the reason why the endowment at the University of Colorado of $2.1 billion is bigger than the endowments of all the top 10 HBCUs combined. They're sitting around waiting for Jeff Bezos' ex-wife to write a check because she feels sorry for them. University of Colorado has donors who are multi-billionaires who own big businesses that are writing $100 million, $50 million, $100 million checks to develop their institution. They're not out seeking an opportunity for somebody else to take them in. They're not looking for a benefactor. They are the benefactor. So this is a different way to look at this. And I want to just make sure I let you know that those of you who disagree with me, you have a right to disagree. Those of you who support Deion's goals and everything else, I get that. Big time college football. I'm a football fan. I'm an Ohio State Buckeye. That's where I graduated from. I watch football. Football's great. And I get it. But I can tell you, think about this. The best black athletes on the planet go to the big white universities, and the HBCUs are sitting back there starving. That don't make no sense. That only happens in the black community. Jewish people don't let go of their best and brightest. They don't sit in their best and brightest other places. They say, no, we need you to come back here and we need you to build something here so that the rest of us can benefit. That's a cultural thing. That's what, Kanye can be mad all day about the fact that the Jews own so much in media and everything else, but there was a plan to that. I read a whole book called How the Jews Invented Hollywood. It was called An Empire of Their Own, How the Jews Invented Hollywood. Great book, not anti-Semitic, none of that stuff. Excellent display of how a community comes together and builds an infrastructure that benefits everybody. They weren't just out here saying, how do I just get paid myself by going and kissing somebody's butt or attaching myself to something somebody else has going on. They literally started their own stuff. MGM, Warner Brothers, all these major platforms started because they had a vision that went beyond the next 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 years. They had a vision that went beyond one person getting a really big paycheck or a couple of people doing well financially. This happens all the time. This happens in music. This happens in sports. It happens everywhere. And you're used to that. You're used to that. That's why when somebody comes along and says, well, there's a different way to think about your community's economics, that's when you start having people come out and say, oh, you a hater. You pocket watching. Why you get your hand out that man's pockets? That's that Negroidian mentality. That's the Negro naysayer. The Negro naysayer finds a problem with every solution. But I give you a problem that you cannot solve, Negro naysayer. The problem you cannot solve is you cannot tell me why Black wealth has been dropping despite all the progress you made during integration, despite all the civil rights marches and all the praying and all the voting, all the Democratic Party no voting, no vucking campaigns and all this other nonsense that you get caught up in. Despite the fact that you've done that, you have been loyally showing up at church. You have been loyally showing up to the civil rights marches. You have been loyally voting in every election. Your wealth is going down. And I can tell you, as a person who has studied finance for the last 30 years in extreme detail at the very highest levels, your wealth is going down because you don't see the bigger picture, you don't see the long-term view, and you don't understand the hard work necessary to own something. If you want to understand where wealth comes from, I want you to go back. Anybody who's watching, any celebrity, any athlete, I want you to go back and I need you to go study how the NFL was created 100 years ago, how the Chicago Bears were purchased for like $200 and they're now worth billions of dollars a couple of generations later. I want you to see how the Green Bay Packers were purchased, I think, for $25,000 and it's now a multi-billion-dollar franchise just a few decades later. I need you to go study that and understand that the vision necessary to make that sacrifice so that you can actually have something that benefits more than just you and your personal bank account. Because again, if all you're doing is going for the fast, quick money, the white man got that all day. He'll easily buy. You can trick a short-sighted person, narrow-minded, short-sighted person out of their money very easily. That's how they got your ass on gentrification. That's how they got you on gentrification. They own your whole damn hood. You walking around your hood, you like, man, I grew up in these projects, and there wasn't no white folks around here, man. It was dope dealers and pimps and thugs. And now, man, now we got a damn Whole Foods and a dog park and a Starbucks and little white women walking their little poodles through the neighborhood. What the hell is this, man? Man, y'all did us wrong. Y'all did us wrong. Nah, bro, you own that whole hood. You could have bought those houses for a few $100 because nobody wanted to live there. But the problem was you were trained to want to leave and go out to the suburbs. You abandoned the hood. You mad because they came to your house. You're the spoiled little 8-year-old who's mad because another kid, a poor kid, came to your house and started playing with the toys that you don't play with no more. And you saw him playing with your toy and you got mad like he took your toy. You didn't want the damn toy. You know, you mad because he thought your woman was the most beautiful woman in the world and you neglected her, you abandoned her, you left her on the side. And now when somebody walks up and they notice how sexy your woman can be and they will love her up and they want to be with her, you're jealous and you like, man, these hoes ain't loyal. These hoes ain't loyal. No, you weren't loyal. You weren't loyal because you were looking for the bright, shiny object when you had the gold buried right in your backyard. You have a community, you have neighborhoods all across this country where we could have easily come together with a long-term view and bought property for dirt cheap. And you didn't do it. And so when white folks come in and they buy that same property and they build it up and make it into what they want to see it become, you're mad because you feel like they tricked you. They didn't trick you. You just wasn't paying attention when people like me were talking. You didn't listen. Kenny Gamble, they didn't trick him. Kenny Gamble out of Philadelphia was the entertainer who's in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Him and Gamble and Huff have written so many songs. They're in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. When Kenny first got his money, Kenny went to a Jewish guy and said, what do I do with money? How do I manage money? His friends went out and bought Cadillacs and fur coats. It was making it rain at the club. Kenny went to the old Jewish man and said, what do I do with money? How do I manage money? And the man showed him what to do with his money. And then you know what Kenny did? Kenny went to his neighborhood where nobody wanted to live. And he bought as many houses as he could. He bought every house he could get his hands on. And he just owned the property. And then he started helping with the cleanup of that community. He started dealing with the elements in the community that weren't good for the community, that made the community unsafe. And then years later, Kenny Gamble, now as a result of this, less than a generation later, Kenny Gamble is one of the biggest property owners in all of Philadelphia. Kenny Gamble owns some of the most prime real estate that you can have in the city of Philadelphia, and he owns a bunch of schools to go with it. Well, why did he do that? Well, because he had a long-term vision. He didn't follow along with the stereotypes. He wasn't just thinking about himself. He was willing to plant a seed. So the point that I would ask is this. When you're making your moves, and we're going beyond Deion Sanders. We started talking about Deion. I don't want to make it just about Deion because I know how we are. We love our heroes, and people get mad if you say that something a black celebrity does isn't right, and people get mad, like, why are you hating and all this. I get it. You're trained to worship your celebrities. That's another reason why your wealth is dropping and why your community's failing is because I know these celebrities. Some of them are absolute dumbasses, but you love them because white folks put them on TV. None of that impresses me. None of that impresses me. But I get it. But here's the thing. For those of you that are actually hearing some of this, what I want you to really ask yourself in your life, the most important decision or the most important question you can ask yourself is, what seeds am I planting? What seeds am I planting? People who plant seeds, they get a harvest later on. Somebody planted a seed to start this league called the NFL 100 years ago. Their harvest is a bunch of teams that are worth billions and billions of dollars. That's their harvest. Their harvest was a couple generations later. Many of those people that planted the seed, I think all of them are probably dead by now, but their children and grandchildren, they own family franchises that are worth billions of dollars. They could go buy a million Negroes for the amount of money that they have because y'all always up for sale and you sell yourselves now. White folks used to sell you. Now you sell yourselves and you sell each other. So the question is, what seeds are you planting right now? You know, all these athletes, all these entertainers that allegedly have all this influence and brag about how much money they have. What seeds are you planting? And I can tell you have a long way to go because I'm really, really fascinated when I see some of these entertainers that will make $10, $20 million in a year and will go spend $3 million on some jewelry and a couple cars and a fashion show in Paris or whatever. They'll literally spend money on things that have no investment value whatsoever to the people that they claim to care about, the people that made them into who they are, the community that they're from. So I would encourage you to grow out of that. And don't let money be the number one driving factor behind every decision that you make. And don't let fast money become the number one driver. Because if you're always thinking about fast money, the white man's got all the fast money in the world. He can always trick you out of your destiny and your purpose. That's my 2 cents. I wish Deion Sanders the very best. I think Deion's a great coach. I think Colorado is very blessed to have him. They now have ownership of one of the best assets in the Black community. And just like hip hop, just like when hip hop left the South Bronx and white folks owned hip hop, this is exactly, to me, a similar situation. I think that Deion should be an asset of the Black community. I think that instead of him going to the places that he thinks are big time, I think that if you are big time, then why can't you be big time exactly where you are? If you're really big time, I mean, if you're really good at what you do, like if you're really just the shit, then the shit ain't got to go chasing down the bigger shit. The shit ain't got to go. You ain't got to go chasing down other people trying to be next to them to prove that you the shit. No, you can sit right where you are, and get the best players, build up a massive business infrastructure that attracts millions of dollars every year. You can shine so hard that eventually everybody is attracted to you. So I don't really, I'm gonna tell you the truth. I think in terms of Deion being that dude and being prime time and everything else, I'm gonna question that a little bit, because there's no reason, if you take away the money, there's absolutely no reason why anyone would ever go coach at the University of Colorado. They are a terrible football team. Their record, they've only had, I think, 2 winning seasons in the last 20 years. Who in the hell would want to go connect to a big white loser when you are connected to one of the greatest Black winners in the history of HBCU sports? Like, I just don't get it. I don't understand it. I'm not saying I hate on them for it. I understand there's money and stuff, but the question is, like, is that all that there is? Like, is money the only thing that they have to offer you to get you to abandon everything that's wonderful and beautiful in your life? I mean, and you're already supposed to be rich. Money is supposed to liberate you. Money is supposed to get you, having money is supposed to get you to the point where you don't have to make decisions just because of the money. I get it. If a poor man says, man, I was only making 300,000, now I'm gonna make 5 million. This is my big opportunity. I get it if a poor man says that. I get that. But I don't understand it when a rich man says that. Do y'all understand what I'm saying? Like, I don't know if y'all get what I'm saying. I hope I can say this and still be loved, because I know people get mad, because they got their heroes and people just, call you a hater or whatever. Those are not the people I'm talking to. I like to talk to Black folks that want to be intelligent and understand the nuances of multidimensional thinking. I want you to realize that there's more to it than the money, right? So the rich man is like, well, of course, I'm making more money, so of course I'm going to go over here. I'm like, well, I don't understand that. Because I can tell you what, I could go to Elon Musk or Bill Gates or something, and I could say, well, you can have 2 million if you go over here, or you can have 8 million if you go over there. That's not going to shape their decision-making process necessarily. They're going to say, I have enough money now. I have enough money that money is not my motivator anymore. I need something other than the money. Okay. And that's the point that's a little bit confusing to me. But then again, I understand. I know I'm in the minority. I know that everybody isn't going to get it. I'm really talking to the people that do, and that at least are ready to hear another way of looking at things, because just understand that the way you've done things economically to this point as a community have absolutely failed. Your wealth is not going up, Black people. Your wealth is actually going down. And the reason it's going down is because you're thinking about these decisions in all the wrong ways. So when you're making your decisions, don't just let money be the number one driving factor. Or if it is money, remember there's a difference between short money and long money. So you don't have to abandon money. You don't have to be poor. You don't have to be broke in order to be committed. Maybe you just have to have a little vision. There's long-term benefits to planting seeds and doing the hard work necessary to develop an infrastructure where there is none. I'll give you one last example that'll help you understand this. This is a touchdown that white folks had that I think you can learn from. Hit the thumbs up button, by the way. If you haven't done it, hit the thumbs up button, share, subscribe, all that stuff, and hit the notification bell. In the 1950s, there weren't a lot of entrepreneurs like there are now. There weren't a lot of startups in the 1950s like there are now, tech startups and all that. That culture wasn't there yet. But there were some guys, some engineers in New York that were working for these big corporations, and they didn't want to work for these companies anymore. They didn't like the insecurity of losing their jobs and all that. So they agreed that they would start a business, a tech company out in California. And they all made the agreement over a lunch where they signed the agreement on a napkin. They literally signed this agreement on a napkin. And they said, well, where are we going to start our tech company? Well, they said, we can go out to California. There's this place where near Stanford University that has a bunch of orange groves, and the property's really, really cheap because nobody wants to be there. Nobody wants to base their company there. Well, so they went and they set up shop, and they set up near Stanford so they could pull the best students out of Stanford University to recruit them to work for their companies. And this area, and then eventually when they became successful, other businesses started coming. And the worth of that property started to rise because everybody wanted to be there. Do you know what that orange grove with that worthless property is called today? Can anybody guess what that property, that worthless property they went to, that abandoned space they went to, is called now? It's called Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley. Silicon Valley is responsible for producing, I think, the majority of America's wealth in the last 40 years. Silicon Valley is now a place that is so expensive that even if you make $250,000 a year, you're not really even rich in Silicon Valley because there's so much wealth that comes to that place. So what they did was they did the original prime time. They did some real prime shit. What they did was they said, we're going to go to a place that nobody wants to be. And we're not going to New York where the wealth is already located. We're not going to Los Angeles where Hollywood is. We're going to go to this property where everything's cheap and nobody wants to really work there. Nobody wants to build an office there. And we're going to make it into something special and plant long-term seeds. As a result, they created some of the most valuable real estate on the entire planet, and they own it all. They own the property. They own the businesses. They own the technology. They own probably $1 trillion in wealth or more, probably $2 or $3 trillion that literally they created out of thin air by believing in themselves and planting the seed and investing in themselves instead of trying to get up next to whatever somebody else got going on. That's what you probably could have had with the Negro Leagues. Invest in yourself. Invest in your own. You know, partner with other people if you want to, that's fine. But don't underestimate the value of what you got. So when I see Jackson State, I see a gold mine, a possibility. I see billions in wealth there. I see this land, this fertile soil that's sort of untouched to some extent, where you could create something that is magnificent. God is sending you all the signs to say, there's wealth here. Wealth, you gotta just dig a little bit. Be patient. Stick around. Plant some seeds, man. Your oil is in the ground. Just keep drilling. But we don't drill deep enough. We don't go deep. We don't go deep and we don't go long. We look for the next bright shiny thing. What the white man got going on? I want to be. Oh, he got something over here. I want to be. No, man. The real wealth in this country comes from one of the most valuable assets you'll ever own. It's an asset called time. And when you invest time into something, like raising that newborn baby that you fed every single day, and for 10, 15 years, you didn't think you had a whole lot because he was little, and then he grows up and becomes LeBron James or something, right? right? Like that's what wealth is. Wealth is like raising a newborn baby that looks tiny, and you're like, this baby can't be an NBA player. Hey, look at him. He only weighs 8 pounds. Like, what is this, right? But you have to have vision, and the vision is what pushes you to plant the seed and invest the time. So a smart parent is like, yeah, he's little now, and he can't read or write or do anything now. But if we nurture him and we feed him and we pour into him and we do this over 20 or 30 years, then we're really gonna have something. That's business is the same way. Wealth is the same way. You got 1 million seeds in the Black community that could become multi-billion-dollar assets for your people. But unfortunately, nobody ever taught you the importance of pouring in the time, planting the seed. When the NFL first started, the collective value of all the NFL teams put together was probably about $2,000. But there were people who saw the vision, who planted the seeds and took the time. A couple generations later, you've got $100 billion worth of wealth. That's where wealth comes from, Black people, and I need y'all to understand that. That's all I got to say. If you could, hit the thumbs up button, thumbs up, thumbs up, thumbs up, share, subscribe if you haven't done it yet. Also, the Love and Money Masterclass I'm teaching with my wife starts tomorrow. If you'd like to join us, you can get a discount to join us at boycewatkins.com. As you guys know, in the Black Business School, we've created the first ever Black financial therapy department because my wife, her doctorate is in social work and she's a licensed therapist. My doctorate's in finance. So we realized that by doing this, we could work with the best thinkers to create a Black think tank that allows us to break past the psychological barriers that keep us from building wealth in our community. So we're really excited about this. This is 100% Black owned. We support only Black owned schools. We gave money to King Randall School because it's Black owned and they're doing really great things. We gave money to Freedom Home Academy International. So we just believe Black people should be educating Black people. So if you'd like to join us for this masterclass on money and relationships, feel free to go to boycewatkins.com. Also, we're doing a Black Wall Street intensive taught by Cody Ransom that starts on December 6th. Cody is an expert on Black Wall Street. There are so many things that you never will learn in public school or anywhere else about Black Wall Street. None of the documentaries have covered these things. Cody knows all of this. He knows where all the bones are buried on Black Wall Street. So if you're interested in that topic, I encourage you to bring your family. We believe education needs to be a family process. So you can also go to boycewatkins.com if you'd like to join the Black Wall Street Masterclass as well. So anyway, guys, have a wonderful day. God bless you. Hit that thumbs up button on your way out. I love you. And to Coach Prime, I wish you the very best at Colorado. I wish you were staying in Jackson State. I'm sure you have your own reasons for doing this, but I'm gonna just tell you, I kind of would have loved to see what happened if you maybe invested a decade or so in the HBCUs, because I think that what you were doing was extraordinary. But I'm sure whoever comes behind him will do a great job too. So take care, guys. Have a good day. And and one more thing I forgot to mention to you guys. Some of you were asking about this. The URL for the financial flashcards that we created for kids. You can feel free to go to financialflashcards.com. That's the URL on the screen. So feel free to go take a look at that. They make great gifts for Christmas and stuff like that. We believe economic intelligence should be a top priority for our people. So if you'd like to implement that in your household, then remember, you're the teacher. You're the primary teacher of your children. Just go to financialflashcards.com. So take care, guys. Have a great day. Thank you for listening. I love you, and I'll see you soon. Be good. Peace.
Here we are, clan the isms, cataclysm, great. Our people out here struggling, trying to make it in this state. Everybody out here doing it, but we the ones too late. Now family, we the ones who gotta delegate. Get that money in the power, never be fake. Stick to cosign for 3. What did he say? Create jobs, support our own. Educate the same and buy back your home. Got 3 degrees, triple 10. 3 PhDs, now we on the CNN. DBTV, let's talk about negligence. Ignorance is bliss, but we can turn it to intelligence. Believe none of what you hear, half of what you see. Let's break it down here on Dr. Voice TV. Here we are.